Hi there! Let's take a closer look today at how to write a comment. So, when students want to write a comment, they often struggle with these three steps. The first one is finding a relevant position, so one that really has to do with your topic and doesn't drift off towards another topic. The second one is finding arguments that are relevant for this position and really defend it. The third one is really writing the text, as in writing a structured text. Let's take a detailed look now at how to do that. Let's go. How to write a comment. Now, I think this is best talked about if you have an example. So let me give you this example. Let's say you have read an article about how difficult it is to live as an undocumented immigrant in the United States today, how these people are being deported from the Trump administration. Then you get the task, comment on the US government's changes in immigration policy. Now, where do you go from here? You have a lot to do. But it's really easy if you follow three simple steps. Step one, find a valid position. That means a meaningful position, one position that has to do something with the task you were given. Let me give you some possible positions you could occupy here. Roughly, this would be these changes to the policy were on the whole more harmful, so they're not good. Or that you could focus on how they are not humane, how they don't treat immigrants like humans. You could say they were necessary, even though they're harsh, or you could say they are simply successful because they achieved their goal of lowering the number of immigrants. Before we focus on arguments as a next step, let's look at some positions that are not valid, so that are invalid for this task. You will have students, or I often have students, that write something like this. They will say too much immigration is bad for a country. This will be their sort of their main position that they will support with arguments. The problem here is this is not really what the task is asking you for. You're supposed to comment on the US government's changes in immigration policy, not on immigration as such. So this is not off topic, yeah? This is not good. On the other side, people could start off writing a text and just talking about how President Trump is not good and how he has made many mistakes and often is wrong on a number of things. This might be true, but it's not really on topic of changes in immigration policy. So do not pick a position like this either. All the other four positions you see there as examples, they have something to do with the main topic. You need to find arguments, of course, to support these, your position. You cannot simply list the position and not have any arguments for it, right? So if you're on the side that these are, if your line of argumentation focuses on that these changes are on the whole good, are beneficial, you could have arguments something like this. You could say, these changes are good because it is necessary to know about the number of immigrants in the country, because these numbers cannot be too high because this will be a problem for institutions, or there shouldn't be people in the country that the government doesn't know anything about because who knows who they are, right? And on the other side, on the other line of argumentation against these changes, you could find the following arguments. For example, that these people have been working and paying taxes, so why remove them? That these deportations are really trouble not just for this one person, but also for their family and neighbors and so forth, and that it's much more important to integrate people than to deport them. Yeah, all of these arguments in themselves are valid, and depending on what position you have, you can pick them and add them to your line of argument. Last step, step 3, would be write your comment. Now this sounds easy, but of course there are some things you should keep in mind. First of all, use paragraphs. Don't just write one long text where I as a reader cannot see where we have a new idea start, or where we have a main part or a conclusion or whatever. So use paragraphs to make that very clear. There should be an introduction. In this introduction you refer to the topic that you were given, and directly you also present your position on this topic. In the main part you will list the arguments that we talked about before, and because it's a comment you will pick arguments that represent your position, but sometimes it's effective to pick an argument from the other side but then refute it. So say some people might say so and so, but really that is not true, because, to support your position. There should be a conclusion where you sum up the points you made. You don't really list the arguments again or repeat them. The point is you maybe weigh them or you evaluate them. You can say, on the whole, we can see it's much more important to this and this. So you should really put something together instead of just repeating things. This is very tricky, but it's possible. So these really are the most important steps in writing a comment. If you follow them, your comment should be quite good. Have fun. If you have any other questions or comments on this video, please let me know and I'll try to get back to you. Goodbye!